You're listening to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. You'll be amazed at all these wild but true situations that others have found themselves in. Because on this show, you'll hear uncensored, unbelievable stories from the world of real estate. I'm Leigh Brown. Let's dive right in.
I'm Leigh Brown, and this is Crazy Shit in Real Estate. Today, I bring you an attorney who is far more than an attorney, so don't get bored yet. Ashley Tison is with us. You need a notepad. You need to have your ideas and your brain ready for so many cool things. Enjoy the conversation, and I'll see you on the other side. Tell my audience, who is Ashley Tison? Where are you located? What is your relationship to the great world of real estate?
Yeah, so I'm an attorney here in North Carolina.
You're an attorney in North Carolina. Whereabouts and how long you been practicing? And is it real estate law?
Yeah, so I like to call myself a reformed attorney. I wanted to get in the game, and so I stopped practicing. It's been about 7 years now. I started out as a big firm lawyer, and after it sufficiently sucked my soul, I started a impact investment company. And I went in-house with a company called Gemini Real Estate Advisors, which was a tenant in common syndicator. And so we syndicated 1031 exchanges. We developed commercial real estate and did all types of different transactions. We raised opportunity funds on Wall Street. We sent those things out through a network of broker dealers. So I learned kind of the world of commercial real estate mixed in with kind of high-level finance of raising money. And when the wheels fell off the commercial real estate market, I decided that commercial real estate wasn't risky enough. And I went and joined a guy who was developing a golf course in the mountains of North Carolina. And that was in April of 2007. So let me tell you how that timing worked out, right?
I think that was probably very inauspicious timing there.
Yes, it was. So when the wheels fell off of that because we couldn't get financing when Lehman Brothers crashed in 2008, I put my keys on the pro shop counter and I said, listen, I'm going back to practicing law. I built up a M&A firm from there where we brought Wall Street level sophistication to Main Street America through kind of a software package. And as I was doing that, we did a ton of transactions for Main Street America. It was awesome. But I kept seeing entrepreneurs leave money on the table. And so we decided, listen, let's do something about that. So I sold that law firm and I started doing succession planning. And unfortunately, people don't want to talk about their demise. They don't want to talk about what's next. So I was in the process of that when I was at a CLE. I heard about opportunity zones and I was like, holy cow, that's like 1031 and private equity got married. And the guy who was presenting, when I ran him down in the hall and asked him that, he was like, yeah, and I had this beautiful baby called Opportunity Zones. So I called my old team from Gemini and I said, hey, listen, let's pop up a website and let's just kind of toy with this because this could be like literally perfect for what our experience is in doing. We popped up a website and we had 150 inbound leads and $75 million worth of money looking for deals. And I was like, okay, we're on to something. As we kind of went through the evolution of learning about opportunity zones and putting together our own fund, there were all these people that wanted us to help them put together their funds. And so I was like, listen, let's take that software program that we built for M&A activity and let's bring Wall Street level sophistication to Main Street America in the form of what I think is the best economic tax incentive that was ever legislatively created. And so we did so and we formed OZ Pros. Originally to become the legal Zoom for opportunity zones, but has since morphed into a full service advisory firm where we not only set up people's captive opportunity funds, we help people set ones up that they want to raise money, and then we help them comply with the law after that.
So you're smarter and less cheesy than LegalZoom, though, because you say that, and my immediate gut reaction is to start laughing because
it's terrible.
It's so bad.
It's so bad.
We're seeing more of that crop up in real estate as our industry goes through some changes right now. We're going to see more of those services. So just, caveat emptor, people, caveat emptor. Let me give you a quick piece of information about opportunity zones. Those of y'all that are in residential real estate may have never dealt with it. This was created by Senator Tim Scott. And yes, Tim's a friend of mine, so that's not why I love the program. Tim brought this to President Trump as a way to bring capital investment to neglected areas as designated by the census. And so the zones were really the areas that money had not come into. And we all know that if you want to have an area come back and get revitalized, you have to have jobs, you have to have retail, and then the housing will come in.
You need fresh cash.
It's got to come in. And so the opportunity zones will go to specific areas. And then the money, when it stays put, can wind up being a wonderful tax benefit. It's not a flip and get in and get out, get rich quick scheme. It is a please bring your money here and stay put plan. And also, one of the things I've loved about opportunity zones is you can use them in brownfield areas. And the brownfield areas in so many of our metro areas have been just left there to sit. The opportunity zones have given capital another way to come in and do creative things around brownfields. So if you need more information on that, we can do some more episodes. But I want to talk about how you got attracted to the opportunity zones, because it was a huge idea at first. Some developers ran with it, but a lot of people just got confused and distracted. And I think part of it's because it's a long-term play. And often when we talk to investors, it's not about the long-term play. It's not about that 10-year horizon. So many of
like to get in and get out.
Right. 1031 even, you got 45 days to identify, 180 days to close, and then you're going to roll up your gains at some future point. Talk to us about that a little bit and about the proclivity of investors to want to stay invested where they are, because it's an important part of the story.
Yeah, I think that, so kudos to Tim Scott and the other drafters of the legislation, because in roughly 4 pages, they were able to accomplish what I think that no other tax incentive program has. Number one, they got the attention of private capital. Everybody was talking about opportunity zones. Number two, they got capital off of the sidelines. And then number 3, they made it patient. And they did that in the 3 benefits that you get from an opportunity zone. So the first thing you get to do is defer capital gains taxes that you would otherwise pay. The second thing is if you were invested by 2019 or 2021, you got a reduction in taxes when you went to pay them. Now, those periods have expired. There's currently pending legislation that Tim's involved with in order to extend that. But the big benefit is that you get a step up in basis to fair market value if you hold for 10 years. Which doesn't just defer taxes, it eliminates taxes. It eliminates capital gains tax, but it also eliminates depreciation recapture. And so for your savvy real estate brokers and their clients who understand the power of real estate and how it can be utilized and best utilized, they understand that they're doing cost segregation studies to use bonus depreciation. The problem is that if you flip out of that too soon, you get hit with depreciation recapture. With opportunity zones, that doesn't happen. The other kind of distinguishing factor between this and 1031, and what I've experienced, as I've kind of gone down this journey, is that real estate investors, they don't like change. They like the things that they're used to. And so they got used to 1031 and they're like, oh, okay, I got that one down.
This
and
is
it's
what
fast.
I do.
Exactly. But at least I know it. And so getting them to, getting that old dog to do some new tricks or even look at new tricks can sometimes be tough. But I think that it is definitely worth it. And the reason is that not only can you go into real estate in the form of opportunity zones, but you can also go into operating businesses where there's much greater upside in the event that you're able to sell tax-free. And so kind of the distinguishing factor between OZs and 1031s is that piece. Also, that instead of having to trace funds, you can use any money from anywhere. You just have to have a capital gain somewhere. So what that allows us to do is to be able to go back almost a full year. So right now we could go back and somebody could have a gain from January 1st of 2023, and we could still defer that gain. And that's really powerful because in a 1031, if you don't put it with a qualified intermediary, then you're done. Yeah, you're not going to be able to do anything with it. We fix a lot of failed 1031s with opportunity zone funds because you have such a long runway. So when you put your money into a fund, you got between 6 months and a year to deploy it. Then you deploy it down into an opportunity zone business, and you've got 31 months to spend the money. So you've got between 37 and 43 months. So almost 4 years before you actually have to spend the money, which gives you a really long runway in order to be able to do good work.
So is your ideal investor the person who screwed up and touched their money so they're not 1031 eligible? Is it the person who couldn't find a suitable replacement property in their time frame? Is it the person who is just kind of confused and lost and feeling time pressure over what to do? How do your investors fall in, and who
Yes.
invests with you? All those people?
Yes. And, right? So it's all of those people. It's also people that have appreciated assets that it's like, okay, they're looking at it and they're saying, okay, my rents haven't grown as much as maybe the market value of this. Right now is kind of an ideal time to be able to exit out of something that's in, an area that's really boomed. And now I'm going to take that cash and I'm going to go put it into an area that still has value upside. And I'm going to do the thing that I did as a real estate developer, as a real estate investor. I'm going to bring value add in that area, and I'm going to be able to chase that alpha a lot better, right, than just sitting on my existing asset and collecting cash flow. So
I got to ask a question because I know this is going to come up. My residential people are sitting there thinking right now, holy crap, I know this old lady, she paid $200,000 for her house once upon a time. Now it's worth $1.2 million. But the capital gains exclusion for a married couple is only $500. Can she take that remaining, what did I say? $500? I forgot the made up numbers I used. So the leftover money, can that be used over here from a primary to an opportunity zone? Is that allowed? Because you can't do that with 1031.
Absolutely.
Hey, California people, this is your world. Hey, what's up? Bring your money to North Carolina's opportunity zones.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing is that it doesn't necessarily have to be real estate. It could be crypto assets. It could be a stock portfolio. And so if somebody, bought Dogecoin back when it was a nickel, and now they're like, I'm kind of concerned that it might go down, and they liquidate that and they don't want to pay taxes on it, they can put it into real estate inside of a North Carolina opportunity zone. Or if they want to start a business, right, that's going to bring jobs and that's going to bring positive social impact into our opportunity zones, they could absolutely use the capital gains from that to do so.
Okay, so if Mama is selling her house and now she's got 500 excess above her capital gains exclusion to do something with, but her grandson is telling her to buy silver coins and she's thinking, I want to do real estate. Do you take grandma's money and help her invest it because she does not have the sophistication of opportunity zones, commercial investment? What do you do for that person who this is their first foray into investing?
Yeah. So what we would do is, more than likely, we're probably not going to set up a captive fund for them where they're going to be doing their own deals. We're going to plug them in. We're going to say, hey, listen, what kind of assets do you like? What's your risk tolerance, right? Like, what are you interested in? And then we've got relationships with a number of fund managers that are out there that are actively managing great funds. And we could say, okay, you like Class A multifamily. Do you like Charleston, South Carolina? Yes, we love Charleston because it's a great area. Well, we've got an opportunity zone that's on Meeting Street in Charleston, South Carolina.
Wait. There's an opportunity zone on Meeting Street?
Yeah.
The other end away from Rainbow Row, I guess.
Correct. But yes, so that whole area, and it's the reason why is because it's based off of the 2010 census. And back then, 2010, at a certain point, if you went past a certain point on Meeting Street, you were calling in close air support. And so, accordingly, they have come in and they've done an excellent job of really revitalizing those areas. And they've done an excellent job of trying to limit the burden of gentrification as well, of trying to really incorporate the local folks who live there into kind of this growth that's happening. And accordingly, so there's great investments down there. I've got a client that's got an opportunity zone deal right now in that specific part of Charleston. There's stories like that across the United States, whether it's storage, whether it's oil and gas. And there's all types of different real estate industries and investment types that you can invest in as a private investor just into a professionally managed fund.
It's such an exciting space to think about because the markets have all experienced this wild run up since the start of the COVID era. And there are so many property owners that feel trapped by their equity because they do not want to fork over the cash to the government just because the property value went up. So if you're in real estate or if you're a consumer and you have felt like you just didn't want to sell because you didn't want to give up $100,000 in taxes, this provides something to look into. And Ashley and I are not telling you this is perfect for you, but this whole point of these shows is to give you something to investigate, ask some questions and realize there might actually be an interesting space for you to do something that's going to benefit you financially in the future. Of course, there's no guarantees on anything, but whenever you're looking at an improvement to your tax situation, that generally is going to wind up to your financial benefit in some way, shape, or form. So what's the most surprising thing you've learned in your transition into the opportunity zone space? Is it the excitement of the different flavors of the opportunity zones? Is it the lack of information? Is it the tax benefits? What do you get excited about?
I love helping people save money on taxes. And I believe that it is each individual's civic duty to pay as little tax as possible. And
Can we insert my hashtag here? Taxation is theft. I'm just going to point that out. Carry on.
Exactly right. So here's the deal, is that we all have a civic duty to pay what we owe. And if we don't do that, we're criminals. But we also have a civic duty to limit the amount of taxes as much as possible. And I love doing that. One of the really cool things that I, didn't see when I came into opportunity zones is that opportunity zones are the great, and it's a real easy fix to be able to, it's easy to get somebody into a fund and then to postpone the taxes due so that way we can come up with creative solutions to limit the tax that they're going to pay, and then to come up with really creative solutions to eliminate the tax on the back end. And I love that, because there's all kinds of tax deferral strategies. I like 1031, and I think that there's an appropriate place for that. But the problem is that, and this is something that your audience and brokers and stuff like that need to be paying attention to, is that for 1031, you get the step up in basis and value at death. And for some people, that's a good thing. For some other people, that could be a really bad thing, particularly if you're approaching the $10 million mark, because people aren't talking about the lifetime exemption amount automatically comes down in 2025. And if you're above $10 million on your net taxable estate, whatever amount above that, you're going to pay 40% to the government within 180 days of death. And so if you don't have life insurance in place or some other kind of liquidity to be able to pay that bill, you're going to be in a world of hurt, because you're going to be forced to liquidate stuff, right, in 180 days that is probably not well suited to sell at that point in time. And so opportunity zones do the exact opposite. Instead of it going up, it limits the amount that goes against your lifetime exemption to whatever you put in. And so if you die between now and 2047, which is when the program ultimately ends, your estate steps into your shoes. And so they would step into that growth all tax-free, as opposed to having to pay taxes on it at that point in time. And so it becomes kind of a default irrevocable trust for freezing your estate value. And those are two of the things that I kind of stepped into and figured out as I was going forward and learning about opportunity zones, that I was like, whoa. I mean, like, I can't believe that more people aren't talking about this.
Well, I think it's because there's an assumption by a lot of people, and I'm not calling any names, y'all know who you are, that most people will never hit that $10 million mark until you realize that because of the COVID era and the way values have expanded. If somebody had a property they paid $500,000 for 15 years ago, a nice little 8-plex, and now it's worth $2 million, suddenly you realize if they have moved that money around 2 or 3 times, they can actually hit these thresholds that seem so big. Because the media makes it out to be that only the ultra wealthy have numbers like that. A lot of regular mom and pops do, if they have been doing their
inflation.
Inflation.
It's a result.
And I have to point this out. I try not to get too political on my show, except that I can't help it. But the spending that has gone on, that has caused these wildly inflationary situations that we're all dealing with a bill that is going to come due, y'all know it's going to be on the backs of the taxpayers. Your elected officials in DC are not going to take it on the chin like you are. So you better be aware that your voting habits are going to need to be examined right now. And if you're voting on emotion of personality or of other issues, you need to set that aside and look at the tax realities of what's going to happen in 2025.
It's all about policies.
And just on a situational basis of how will you be able to afford retirement, you need to see what's going to happen if we don't get like Javier Milei in Argentina and just slash the bureaucracy, because that IRS has over 68,000 pages of tax code. The 1031 is a provision in there. Opportunity zones is a provision in there. There's nothing illegal And understand me on that. There's nothing wrong or illegal with reducing your tax burden.
Nope.
Those pages exist so that people that are wealthy and intelligent enough to find the way through the plan can reduce their taxes. And what we're asking you to do is talk to professionals, reduce your tax burden, because why give money to an irresponsible government if you don't have to? Now, I do have to ask a question here, because a lot of my viewers and listeners are normal people who think $10 million is this wildly huge number. They just can't imagine it. Back to my situation with Memo. Let's say that she sells her $200,000 house that she paid $200,000 for. She sells it for $800,000, and Papa's still alive. And so they had their 500 in cap gains exclusions. They have 100 left. Is that big enough to play in opportunity zones, or do you have to be a giant, big money, big player to get involved in these situations?
I couldn't have asked you to ask a better question, because it's not about how much gain you have right now. It's about how much gain you're going to have into the future. Now, if it's Mima and Papa, where they might be in their 80s/90s, 10 years is a long time to hold. And so it may not necessarily be the right deal for them, unless what they really want to do is they want to be able to put it into something that's going to grow tax-free for their kids. And who doesn't like tax-free growth? So compound interest is the seventh wonder of the world. Tax-free compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. And that's the beautiful thing about opportunity zones, is that it's literally tax-free compound interest. And so once again, it depends on how much you're going to gain in the future into whatever you invest in. And so if that's a business and you think it's going to 10x, you're crazy not to start it in an opportunity zone. If it's a real estate deal over 10 years, it's going to at least double in value. And
it should. We can't guarantee that, but it should.
It should, right? And ideally, you're probably tripling in value over 10 years, or getting close to tripling in value. And if that's the case, you're going to pay 23.8% on every tripling, right? On every time it doubles, it's going to go 23.8% on that growth. And so if you don't want to pay that, opportunity zones are the answer. And so it definitely should be inside of what you examine, what you look at. Ultimately, you may decide that it is or it isn't for you. But here's the people that really should be paying attention to it, is if you have property that's in an opportunity zone, if you're regularly doing deals that might be in an opportunity zone, and if you want to find out where the opportunity zones are, if you go to ozpros.com/map, you can type in an address and it'll pull up whether it's an OZ or not. We've also got some cool stuff for your listeners, and I've got a special landing page for them that we'll tell about at the end of the show. But inside of that, you go to the map, you check it out. And if you're doing a deal in an opportunity zone and you don't at least look and see, you're literally leaving 24% on the table. And it's usually more than that. And so if you equate that out over a 10-year hold, it usually equates to around a 3% bump in IRR. So it's literally the difference between a 5 cap and an 8 cap on the same exact deal with the same exact risk profile. And so that's real estate investing nirvana, when you can get that much of a bump, right, on a 3% IRR bump. Anyhow, so obviously I'm a huge fan. I've been doing them for 6 years, and this is all I do. But I've seen the value of what it's accomplished for folks.
Okay, so if you're not a super nerd, IRR is internal rate of return and CAP is capitalization rate. And if you're in real estate and you don't know those terms, it's probably because you're residential. So go learn those, go get the formulas, or in fact, take the CCIM, the commercial designation class, take 101, and get to know some of these math equations, because they can spill over into residential investing as well. Get yourself really educated. And of course, you can always watch the Bigger Pockets episodes on these. They explain it really well. I love Bigger Pockets. And I got to add in one more thing. If you're talking to Mama and Papa and they are looking at less than a 10-year time frame, but they'd like their gift to the next generation to be in an opportunity zone, it might be because they don't want to give a pile of cash to those worthless grandkids who might just squander all of it. So you can talk to your older clients about a way they can provide residual income to their family or a long-term gift instead of spoiling them with cash right now. I mean, it's honestly a conversation I've had with some older folks that are very concerned about the money just being blown on consumer goods and not used as a stepping stone to a different future. So this is part of that role of the real estate consultant. You bring people lots of options and help them think through it.
That's exactly right. And that's one of the great things that we've been able to do. I call myself a reformed attorney, but I still am an attorney. And I can't help but to really ask my clients questions. And one of the things that we have expanded our business into is helping people kind of process through that. How do you want your estate plan packaged? How do you want to motivate subsequent generations? Because I'm going through this myself right now. And I am putting together a meritocracy-based estate plan that's not just available to my kids, but it's available to anybody that's my nieces, nephews, that kind of thing, where I have specific number of values associated with them doing things that I think are going to benefit them. So if they read the book Traction by Gino Wickman, they get a certain dollar amount. If they then can present a business idea, we'll provide business funding for that business idea that's going to run on EOS. And so there's cool things.
This is amazing. Yeah. So wait a minute. You're going to do a book report. How do you know they read the book?
Yeah. So that's what they have to do. They have to do a book report where they do a presentation to show not only what they learned from it, but then the key thing is they need to show how they're going to apply it by putting it to work in a business.
I freaking love this. And I think every parent, anybody putting together a will, should copy this. This is amazing. So give me something else that's in your meritocracy list, because I did not expect this, to be honest. Ashley, this is my favorite thing right now.
So this is better than Opportunity Zones in a lot of ways, right?
Times better, but I have 2 college-age kids, so it's hitting home real hard.
It's crazy, right? And I do too. So I've got 3 boys, right? 16, 18, and 20. And
I have a 18-year-old daughter, just saying.
Yeah, that's right. I'm a big fan of arranged marriages, by the way. So inside of our meritocracy-based estate plan, we start with a family constitution. And that can be daunting for people, but it really is, it's all of your maxims that you got passed down to you about what's important about money, how you make money, how you take care of money, how you be generous with money, what your responsibilities are with money. And those are the things you embed into your family constitution. And that becomes the playbook for your trustees to be able to administer your estate in order to make sure that they're implementing it with that in mind. And so it's been a cool process going through this myself. And we're going to take the same thing that we did with M&A, and now we've done with Opportunity Zones, and we're applying it to estate planning too. But I don't have that rolled out, so I'm not on podcast everywhere talking about it. I guess we kind of snuck it out, right?
This is the book you're going to have to write. I'm going to need a copy of that. I need this in my life. So I really hope you'll roll this out and put the teaser on your OZ Pros website so that everybody can request their copy in the future, so they can know what to do with these dollars that they're going to create through the Opportunity Zones.
If anybody wants my kind of Cliff Notes or whatever, and this is like pure behind the scenes stuff, right? Like our family constitution type deal, or like some of the meritocracy based estate planning that we're doing, if they'll email me at ashley@ozpros.com, we'll send that out to them.
I mean, this is amazing. All right, Ashley, tell us, we've already chunked this thing so full of information and ideas. What's the last thing you want to leave the audience with before we wrap it up and send them to the landing page for information?
I think that I'm a huge fan of intentionality, and you got to start with the end in mind. And that's, one of the reasons why I do the meritocracy-based estate plan and why I do Opportunity Zones, because if you're planning on making money and you don't take steps to mitigate the taxes along the way, then you're literally hemorrhaging money into something that you probably don't believe in, to your point, right? Like the government and the way they spend. And I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on, you got to agree that what we spend money on is moronic. And so if you can take that and you can put it to work yourself, you are doing your family, yourself, and your community a disservice to not do so. And so I like to prompt people to get intentional about that. And that if you don't take action, then unfortunately the government will. And so you got to get intentional about this. You've got to learn about it. You got to actually take action. You got to put it on your calendar. You got to block time for it, and you got to make it happen. And if you don't, then ultimately that's on you. And I like to prompt people and like to encourage people, just go do something. Even listening to this podcast is doing something. Now take the next step. we're here to assist with that in whatever way we can, whether that's opportunity zones, whether that's other tax mitigation strategies. So we help high W-2 income earners as well mitigate taxes. And then if it's meritocracy-based estate plan, if you don't have a will and a trust, if you got $5 to your name and you don't have a will, you got a problem. And so you need to fix that and fix it today. Another thing that, I don't know if you do this, but if you've got an 18-year-old child and they're getting ready to go to college, you need to make sure that you have a healthcare power of attorney that they've signed before they go to college. I just had to do that with both my boys. And that's something that's just like, these are adulting things that have to be done, and that they all the time, they get pushed to the bottom of our list. Move it to the top, make it happen.
Well, I got to tag onto that, because if you weren't aware, there's a whole sector of paperwork called Mama Bear paperwork, because when your child turns 12 in some states, 16 in others, 18 in others, they are treated as an adult, which means you as the parent cannot intervene on their behalf. You cannot ask questions. You cannot get information, even if your child is being given medications. So before they go off to college and get put into that indoctrination factory, where they get sent to student health, when I was in college, it was all about amoxicillin. I'm pretty sure they give out a whole bunch of different stuff now. If you want access, you need to tell your kids. That's part of our family constitution, is that we look out for one another. And I am a lot older and longer in the tooth than you are. So I want to help you make good decisions.
That's right.
Get the Mama Bear paperwork, the healthcare power of attorney. And I do have to point out, I don't think you intentionally did it, but it cracked me up when you started off by talking about estate planning as begin with the end in mind.
Well, that's just it, right? Is it?
I mean, that could be the title of your book, begin with the end in mind, at the actual end, because you're all going to die.
That's right. I mean, we won't even go into spirituality, right? But at the end of the day, that's the most important, because we know that we got a limited time on this, we got a limited ride here. And so if we all know that, right? I have yet to meet somebody that, is past, I don't know, I think the oldest person that I met is like 105. And so literally it is everybody's end. Death and taxes are the only sure things, but we can sure do a lot of things to mitigate those. And so,
well, you can mitigate taxes. You cannot mitigate death. I mean,
well, you can mitigate the negative effects of death
there's
relative
people
to like
that think you can avoid death. The biohacking crowd. I mean, let go, people. Just realize that when your end comes, that's all right.
That's right.
And as we say in the Baptist church, turn or burn. You can have, that's my gift to you. That begin with the end in mind for your book. It's going to be a wonderful bestseller.
And then the subtitle under that will be turn or burn, baby.
I think we have a hit on our hands, so we should not let the moss grow on this, because you don't know when your day's going to come. Thank you so much for coming on the show and dropping a million great angles of information for my audience. It's greatly appreciated. Friends, all of the links are going to be in the show notes for this episode. So if you were just sitting there overwhelmed with the fire hose, never fear. Click on the link, go to the show notes, and you can reach out to Ashley directly, find out what OZ Pros can do to help you and your clients. And most importantly, say something nice in the comments, ask a question, and we will be back with more information that can help you, not just in real estate, but in everything that real estate touches, which is life. Ashley, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Leigh. It's an honor and a privilege.
All right, guys, hit the bell. Say something nice in the comments. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.
As always, I'm so super thrilled that you joined in for more crazy shit. And if you're a realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular human being who happens to have an unbelievable story that you need to tell the world about, or well, you just need to one-up the story you just heard, then make sure to DM me on Instagram at Leigh Thomas Brown, or tweet me at Leigh Brown, or frankly, any social network where you hang out. I'm there. And if you had some fun, then you totally want to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.